The pundits like to slice and dice our country into red states and blue states.
The time for empty talk is over.
You don't get to do anything you want to.
But
millions of people have got to stand up and demand that we have a government that represents all of us, not the 1%.
do not allow anyone to tell you that it cannot be done.
Welcome to Kleptocracy Podcast, Ep 3. I am Tom.
And I'm Jay.
And we're going to talk about kind of the news of the week, of the past week. So let's jump into it. First thing we got the $2,000 stimulus check update as Bo Biden pushes for a third set of direct payments.
Yeah, but instead of them being retroactive and since the pandemic, there's been talks that the rhetoric has changed, even though it didn't. And we're now going to be possibly getting 1,400 checks deducted from the original 600, which was never stated clearly. So despite their whole entire platform while running in the Georgia Senate runoff.
Right.
So, yeah, I think, unfortunately, that's one of the botches that the Democrats, which haven't even had have all three, branches yet of government, they've already kind of rolled back on that, unfortunately. That said, I do think the stimulus offers some good things in the next bill, but that is one thing that definitely hurts their image. And kind of goes back to why people feel cynical of politics. But yeah, what are your thoughts?
Well, yeah, like it says here, direct cash payments totaling $2,000 to be given to Americans, including a third stimulus check of $1,400, in addition to the $600 we've already received, as part of his $1.9 trillion coronavirus relief package. Yeah, I mean, like you were saying during the Georgia runoff, they were saying 2,000. Now they're like, 1,400 because you already got 600. And it's like, you said 2,000, now you're saying 14. And it's just, his administration hasn't even been sworn in yet, and they're already caving. Like, I mean, it shows, I don't know how else to say it, but it shows extreme weakness already in his administration to already back down from something he already said.
Yeah, we need a bold, an aggressive agenda. I mean, for Biden to already pivot this early without even having taken office yet is just it's a very demeaning and like weak gesture. Like the whole notion of it is just really unfortunate. Again, I do think hopefully there, there's some good aspects to this bill. I mean, not everything is impeccable, but I find it very, just very damning to their image. It's just, why pivot when you already are going to have all three branches of government majority with Kamala Harris breaking the tiebreaker? Like, why pivot now?
Yeah, it's the caver in chief, I guess. I mean, it's not. I mean, I don't know. It kind of makes sense why Obama picked him as his VP, because while the stuff Obama did was great, he did cave on a lot of things in the Affordable Care Act. And so it's like now Joe Biden is doing the same thing. He's already caving. And I don't want to be this guy, but Trump gave us 1,800 under the Trump administration and the Republicans. And the Democrats are only going to give us 14. It's like, dude, you guys are supposed to be for the people.
Well, like, yeah, and like the PUA, I do think Biden, extending that through September and adding 400 instead of 300, that's a big deal. I mean, that will help a lot of working class families. But again, like Kamala Harris, and I haven't heard anything from her lately. She's been just completely silent on
Everything.
well, most things, but the $2,000 like being retroactive that her and Bernie both sponsored, and I believe Ro Khanna did as well. I haven't seen anything on that. So why would you already go from $2,000, which was a one-time thing, which should be retroactive anyway, to here's 1,400. You never once disclosed 1,400 in the Georgia Senate runoff. So
what I think politicians should do is what they do for like sports pay-per-views is like cards subject to change, policy subject to change. There's a little fine print on the bottom of like their campaign ad because
weasel words.
yeah, they say, oh, vote for me because you should because and it's like you're gonna promise me money and then you're gonna say, oh no, I was just kidding, I wasn't gonna do that, I got you. You know, like when Obama said, yeah, universal health care during the campaign. And then he gets elected. He's like, I got you. Got to give it to the pharma company and the insurance company because this is capitalism.
Are you telling me someone whose entire cabinet was appointed by Citibank doesn't have the best interests of the people?
It's weird, class? Right?
No.
I know. It's really weird. I mean, it's like kind of how an unknown senator got to be president with no name. Interesting. Anyway,
well, and it's funny though too. Like Biden was also like the pick to get more Republican support anyway, wasn't he? And Blue Dog Democrat support, like
yeah.
But I will say this: Obama did set the bar pretty low for Biden to be better than him. If Biden chooses, to implement some good bills, he can actually expand Medicare for all through executive orders alone. So I thought that's pretty interesting. I mean, I doubt he'll do it. I highly doubt he'll do it. But in theory, and this is one thing that also kind of annoyed me, well, greatly annoyed me, was how like they've already talked about student debt forgiveness. They went from like $50,000, I think, to like 20, and now it's down to like 10.
Oh yeah, they're already saving.
And when you have means testing and you cave to austerity, like, why are you running as a Democrat? Like, you shouldn't be a Democrat. You should be like, that's how like the Overton window is so shifted to the right. It just amazes me that like
the thing about it is like if you're gonna constantly backpedal and compromise, you need to be transparent and tell us why. Why can't you do this? Is there something to do economically that forgiving that much loan might jeopardize certain banks, like the interest or something? There's got to be something there. You got to be able to explain it to people. You can't just say, yeah, we'll do this, but we actually kind of have to do this, and then the people go on why, and you don't give them an answer. It's kind of not how democracy works.
Right.
Anyway, let's move on here to
well, I wanted to add one thing quickly too. So the SALT deduction cap, that's one thing that's being proposed from Democratic lawmakers. And according to Jacobin magazine here, they state that Democrats have been trying to restore unlimited SALT deductions since the 2017 tax law capped the benefit at $10,000. If Democrats choose to permanently repeal the cap, it would cost almost $600 billion, or 3 times the amount it would cost to boost the $1,400 checks to $2,000. The survival checks and the SALT tax breaks are mere opposites when it comes to distributing benefits. So it's like right there, that's like alienating the working class in favor of 1% tax write-off. So I just wanted to add that real quick.
Yeah, already. They're already. And it's weird because the Trump administration already gave billions of dollars in tax cuts to the wealthy.
Right. And like, I have my criticisms about the CARES Act. It was a giant corporate bailout. And, you know, they weren't, a lot of industries in the private sector like shouldn't have fired as many people as they did. But one wrong doesn't, you know, make another wrong, you know, any justified more or less.
Right.
So, you know, it could still potentially be a lot better of a bill and less of a corporate bailout. But that to me just shows like the detachment, you know, of reality from the working class.
Well, then maybe we should.
Washington brain.
Well, then maybe people shouldn't vote for somebody who's been in politics for 40 years and hasn't done anything.
Or maybe we shouldn't elect, you know, Nancy Pelosi to be Speaker yet again of the House.
She's such a bad public speaker, dude. I was listening to something today on the news, and it was just like a bunch of ums and ums the whole way through.
Do you want to know something crazy? So Kyle Kalinske of Secular Talk brought this up, but he showed this video. Nancy Pelosi actually, at one point, supported nationalized healthcare, like universal healthcare.
Really?
Yeah. Which is very, very telling because, you know, today she's just bought out by the private health sector, you know,
That's why
private healthcare industry, and, you know, and a lot of insider trading as well as that she's done. So, but yeah, like over 20 years ago, you can see video footage of her supporting it, which is just, it's so painful, dude. Like,
well, she
how out of touch she became.
Well, yeah, I mean, a lot of it too is rhetoric. I need to get elected to win re-election, and here's what I'm going to do: nationalized health care, blah 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 blah. Gets elected, gets in office, gets in power, doesn't do anything, does the exact opposite. That's why people don't have trust in their elected officials anymore. Is because all they do is lie. Or I'm sorry, they misspoke.
Nancy Pelosi says that she feeds them. So she feeds us. She feeds everybody.
Yeah, from her ice cream fridge.
I'm like, from what, your $100 million net worth? Is that right? Is that who you try to feed? Oh no, it's not that. You need SALT deductions. So go ahead and continue with the next
They
topic.
could just do a much better job of explaining why instead of just doing things, and that's why a lot of people just don't give a shit.
Well, what bugs me is just like, I'm so sick of hearing like, you know, the rhetoric, you know what I mean? Especially of unity and healing the nation, because I only hear this when I hear people that want to sympathize, right, with the alt-right, you know, and neo-Nazis and fascists. Why would I want to unify and heal with them who literally just try to throw a coup, you know, at the Capitol Hill?
Right.
And why don't you run on policy? Stop talking about bullshit. This is not 1990 fucking 4. Okay. You can't run on Bill Clinton rhetoric. Okay. That the new Democrat era, that's over. People want to go back to a more populist and FDR style of, you know, a Democratic Party platform, not what we have now with the status quo. So, that's a great segue into the next thing we're going to talk about, which is the National Guard troops pouring into the Capitol for the inauguration. This article is from the AP. And let's see here. National Guard troops called to go to the Capitol in response to fears of more violence from Trump extremists. I'm just going to call them Trumpians or Trump supremacists. More than 25,000 troops are due to be in D.C. by next week for the inauguration. And that amazes me. It amazes me that the insurrection, the attempted coup actually happened at all. And, you know, all the police and stuff that just let people walk in. They took selfies with them and they, you know, high-fived them. As long as it's not a left protest.
Yeah, as long as it's not Black Lives Matter, it's okay.
Exactly.
As long as it's not Occupy Wall Street, it's okay.
or Antifa even. And
yeah, who I've never even met or seen an Antifa before. So.
and there's no organization for Antifa. So
Right, interesting. Who's the Antifa candidate? You know, an
yeah,
Antifa just an anti-fascist, and I thought we fought a war to stop fascism. So I don't know why.
see, there's Profa and then there's Antifa,
Yeah, right.
and they're Profa at
Yeah. The Trump
staging a coup.
supremacists are, yeah, definitely. And I just find it extremely strange and interesting that we have to call 25,000 National Guard troops to guard DC for the like. That's insane to me. That they're calling in the military to guard the president, the incoming president. And that's just
Right.
and that sounds like some stuff that happened during the Civil War. That doesn't sound, like something that should be happening now. And then I know that the federal government requested Oregon to send more troops, because they've been calling National Guard from all over the states to DC. But Kate Brown of Oregon, the governor of Oregon, said no, they need to keep troops there to guard Salem, the capital of Oregon, because during the riots, Trump supremacists also took Salem. They also went into the capital of Oregon as well, and so she wants to keep some in her own city and state to make sure that it doesn't get taken over. And that's fair. It's hard to just say, yeah, take all of our troops. It's just, you can't. It's insane to me. It blows my mind that this is happening.
It's so abhorrent, like especially what they did too at Jay Inslee's house.
Oh yeah,
they broke the gate
and just walked in
blatantly. But the ironic thing that I find absolutely hilarious is that these are a lot of the same people that don't like to wear masks, and now they're literally being surveilled, and
yeah,
the FBI's actually worked with like social media to find a lot of these people. So it's ironic, like maybe you should wear a mask in a pandemic regardless. Not that I'm advocating for this, because this behavior is disgusting and it's violent and grotesque. This is a protest for all the wrong reasons. And one thing I want to mention too is, I've seen people trying to exclusively say that, how Trump uses like a lot of fake populism rhetoric to have like disenfranchised or, poor working class white people that want to, partake in these riots. But the problem is there's CEOs that literally took a private jet to get there. There's a lot of wealthy people at that protest that supported Trump. So that whole notion, I think that's a fallacy, and I think it's a cop out, to tell you the truth. So, but yeah, I just wanted to add that.
I mean, National Guard troops are sleeping on the floor of Capitol buildings. I mean, it's amazing that this is happening.
Yeah.
Like, just, here, guys, just like chill out on the floor for a while. Make sure no one breaks in.
Take a nap. That dude's on his phone.
Yeah.
He's ready.
He's playing Pokemon Go. This guy's playing Pokemon Go.
Yeah. That's what I'd be doing.
A pillow. It looks like a comfy ass pillow. It amazes me.
With no pillowcase. That's disgusting.
They don't give him pillowcases. They can afford to give him pillowcases because they gave all the money to the wealthy.
Yeah. No, they got to go to salt cap deductions. I don't know what you're talking about. It just amazes
me that we have to have 25,000 troops. I just, oh my God.
Well, what kills me is the fact that they did that. They also sent a lot of law enforcement only after the fact for backup. Only after they infiltrated the Capitol, and only after. And then Pramila Jayapal, excuse me, she's a state representative here in Washington State, and she contracted the virus from one of her Republican constituents who didn't wear a mask either. On that note,
it's what was it? The mayor of DC pleaded for the Trump administration to send troops, and Trump denied him 6 times. He asked Trump, he pleaded with Trump that, hey, please bring troops and police to stop what's happening. Trump said no 6 times. 6 times he said no. And it wasn't until the acting attorney general was like, oh yeah, we're going to have to activate. We're going to have to send him in. Like, Trump didn't give a shit, and it's obvious he didn't care.
Well, he's not going to be at the inauguration anyway. Trump isn't.
No, he's not.
Is he like the third president to not do that?
I don't know.
I mean,
I know
pretty
that
rare.
they're trying to make a big deal of him leaving. He wants like a big military parade and a 21 gun salute, you know, fireworks. He wants to, you know, all that crap. He wants everything when he leaves because that's how he is. He's a little baby. You know, he's the kid that if you were to go to somebody's birthday, you have to get him a present too, so he wouldn't feel bad. He's the participation trophy president.
Yeah.
I
just want to make something clear, like, and this isn't like, and I'm not trying to generalize and make an indictment on like all Trump supporters, but like clearly this fandom and this like, you know, sheer relentlessness of just being like brainwashed by fabricated election results, like it's just a really grotesque display. You know, this isn't patriotic. Like this is domestic terrorism. Call it for what it is, you know. So
yeah, I don't. My view on it is you pledge allegiance to the flag, not the Trump. You know, we live in democracy. We live in a country where
they replaced the flags with Trump flags. They tried to in the Capitol, and
that's what authoritarians do. That's what dictators do. That's what fascists do.
Yeah,
and
that's literally a coup attempt.
Yeah, that's not what democracy is. You know, I don't swear my allegiance to one person because that's not what democracy is. You know, we can
I get the argument that we may not live in a true democracy, but this is not. There was no evidence of voter fraud in the general election. Now, if you want to talk about the DNC, well, that's another story. But in this context, yeah, this isn't. There was no evidence of voter fraud.
No, there wasn't, and it's. I mean, what, 60 plus court cases all thrown out because there's no evidence? And then Trump is the guy saying, yeah, we're a nation of law and order. Well, law and order rely on evidence, and you're not giving any. So then you're just contradicting the guy's a hypocrite. And
I've never seen a president ever literally calling for stop the steal. Why? Because you're going to lose? Like, you want to stop counting votes?
Well, it's funny.
I mean, Al Gore. Go ahead.
In some places, they were saying stop the steal. And in other places, they were saying count all the votes. And so it's like, I'm confused. Do you want us to stop or do you want us to keep counting? Because it doesn't, they don't know what they want.
The answer is yes.
It's mob mentality is all it is. It's mob mentality.
Absolutely.
That's it. That's all it is.
It's authoritarian. It's a cult mentality, mob mentality. It's
Trump has a god complex and a tiny wiener.
Trump,
that's what it comes out.
And he's trying to pardon his loyalists too.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to feel bad for people that have publishers dropping their books because they became opportunists to support Trump over the country. So. Right. And this is what's also funny is using their own logic. If you're going to have a free market view towards the economy, then if cancel culture decides that they don't want to buy your material, like your books, then doesn't that go by your own logic applied?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what the market doesn't want your product, clearly.
Yeah.
So
private businesses have the right to refuse service.
Yeah, I mean, that's their logic, right? I mean,
yeah, you can self-publish. I don't care. You know, maybe
you can
start books, Parlor Books. That's a good idea. I'm going to call whoever owns Parlor now and say, hey, we should do this. Anyway, CBS News, NRA files for bankruptcy. And I found this really interesting because this has been it was in the news a while ago, maybe like a couple years ago. And then, you know, everything kind of happened with Trump and stuff. And then like investigating and, you know, lawsuits and all that type of stuff takes a very long time. The state attorney general of New York filed a lawsuit alleging financial crimes by top NRA officials and is seeking to disband the organization. They filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. So what Chapter 11 does is it stops court and legal collection of assets for debt collection. And so they're basically, they due to Chapter 11, they're not people can't come in and say, hey, we're going to take all your businesses, all your furniture, all your stuff, and try to help and consolidate the debt that you've accrued. And so I found that very interesting. They're going back to Texas to regroup, where they have they're going to be their new location. The governor of Texas said, you can come here. We still protect the Second Amendment type of thing. Like, the Second Amendment's under attack due to this lawsuit. The organization has over 5 million members, but has had to lay off dozens of employees and actually had to shut down its fundraising. And that's even though
financial crimes is it? Like embezzlement? Like, what are we talking about?
So the lawsuit claims that the top NRA leaders used more than $64 million for trips to the Bahamas, private jets, luxury hotels, and lavish dinner parties. So, yeah.
Are you telling me that's not par for the course?
Yeah, I thought that's what nonprofits did.
Yeah.
I mean, and I find it very interesting that the NRA has to basically file Chapter 11 when Americans bought a record number of guns in 2020. And that's amazing. I think I have a little thing over here, right here. You can see here that in 2020, they bought nearly, this is background checks. So in 2020, background checks were almost 40 million. And that's compared to just over 28 million in 2019. And it's just, even though background checks and gun sales are going up, the NRA is still going to Chapter 11, not because maybe they're not meeting membership requirements that they need. It's because top senior level officials in that organization basically used the money of the nonprofit that they're getting to help defend the Second Amendment rights and the rights of people to basically buy private jets and Lamborghinis and have, $1 million parties. It's insane.
I mean, super PACs are you can't be surprised of like corruption or embezzlement of like any form or context. You know what I mean? The whole notion is just not, it doesn't surprise me.
Right.
To be honest.
And I'm not saying the NRA doesn't do some good, because they can. They do have very well-educated, well-funded lawyers that can help fight for people's rights for guns, for like if they had some type of misdemeanor crime that was on their record that in some states could possibly stop them from owning a firearm. And they've done all the they've done all the stuff for that. Yeah.
I just want to say, I think there's a big misconception with the NRA, because like it's the head of the NRA that does like contracts with like Raytheon, right? It's not like the members of the NRA that are like, I mean, I think it's a totally different dynamic.
Yes.
And I do think a lot of people, I think there's just a lot of misconceptions about like the context of that,
No, I think that's
I've seen
I'm not saying anything bad.
I've seen a lot of liberals, like mention how much they hate the NRA, but then they don't ever mention like it's really the head of the NRA with like the special interests groups and connections. That's the problem, not necessarily the members or the committee as much. You know what I mean?
Right. It's not the members or the organization itself. It's those in power of the organization. Right. And the organization does a lot of stuff. They do a lot of lobbying and use a lot of the money they have to push for Second Amendment rights stuff, which is good. That's great that we live in a country that we have that.
Right.
And I'm not saying that's not right. And I've been looking into a firearm myself as well. And so it's due to the way things have been lately. So, and
my view on owning, like, it's shifted quite a bit. Like,
it's crazy when you think of like 3-4 years ago, I would have said no. Now I'm like,
same.
It's interesting. And we're seeing that. Obviously, I mean, the data shows it. So, all right, what else do I have on the list here? The McConnell stuff here I find very interesting. This is what, from the Oregonian? Yes, I believe it is from the Oregonian, which is a news source, from Oregon. It's in the name. Basically, President Trump's impeachment trial will start after the inauguration of Beau Biden. And Mitch the bitch McConnell is telling senators that their decision to convict Trump will be a vote of conscience, and that it is their choice individually and not the choice of the party. And I just find that very interesting that he's kind of just letting those in his party choose what they want to do. He's not telling them what to do or what they should do. He's, yeah, do whatever you want. And and that's weird from Mitch McConnell because he's been such a had the reins so tight on that party for so long, and when it comes to this, he's like hands off, which is very weird.
Yeah, he's dictated a lot of agenda, especially for like legislation and like especially in like the power dynamics. I agree. So this is almost uncharacteristic of him to do that.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird for him to take
it is weird. I think he's trying to like alienate himself by distancing himself with Trump, but I think it's just too little too late. And like I really think a lot of it is, if you look at Trump's policies, he's a run-of-the-mill conservative. He really does, like, the biggest difference is like culture and decorum. He shoots from the hip but if you look at a lot of the GOP's policies, there's like almost no difference. Like their platform and their policies, especially with austerity, like it's very similar. So yeah, this is just very I just think this is very uncharacteristic. It's weird.
Yeah, it's really weird. I think it's I think it's what you were saying. He's trying to distance himself from Trump and just the whole atmosphere and environment Trump created. And I think that's really I think the Republican parties are realizing now that it's beginning to rupture and really damage the party, and it could split the party. We're probably going to see Trump supremacists.
I think it already has.
Really just try to only elect their own people. That one woman in Congress, the QAnon conspiracy, Lauren Boebert, who's a QAnon supporter of that conspiracy, is a congresswoman, and she's a big Trump supporter, and a lot of people love her. And it says I think we're going to see some more of those. I think we might even see some some established Republicans probably get replaced by a lot of these Trump coup people, and I see that could be possible. And that'll just give the Democrats more power.
Yeah, I mean, infighting in the Republican Party and the tensions and with the GOP, I mean, it's nice because there's so much infighting on the left. It's actually kind of refreshing to see this for once, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, what I think it's going to be interesting because what we know about politics, especially here in America, is due to our two-party system, a lot of the different wings of the party, like the progressive or the far right wing or whatever, those wings are often build coalitions, and they're consolidated within the party, and so thus the party establishment will grant or promise certain committee chairmanship or other type of things to key members of those wings to get those votes and get those people on board. And so I think that might really hurt the Republican Party in the long run.
Yeah, I mean, especially like after the whole Tea Party takeover, in the Republican Party, and which I still think is kind of ironic because a lot of their policies are still the same. I think it's much easier for them to build a coalition because they have the funding. They run a lot of times on like immigration policies, and the left doesn't have as much money, but they have the people and the numbers if they don't get cock blocked by the Democratic Party, but
Right.
so, but yeah, if we had like a more socially democratic system, I think we'd have probably at least four parties. You'd have like the libertarians, conservatives, run of the mill Democrats, that are maybe left of center. Then you'd have the Workers' Party, or like socialists, Marxists, what have you. But like the far right would probably be more towards like the Libertarian Party. But like, I don't know, like the whole notion and premise of like a third party, just I'd love to vote for a Workers' Party. Or People's Party. I just don't, I don't know if it's sustainable just because of how much the threshold of a two-party system is.
I think what
There's
the
just so much. There's just a long ongoing debate.
I think what the problem with
Go ahead.
that, and this is a little off topic, but I think what the problem with that is nobody wants to do the legwork on the ground locally to build that party from the ground up. So here's a good example of what I'm talking about. But we'll look at the Green Party, for example. They only run for president. I don't see Dr. Jill Stein running for local office and then as a city council, and then going from council to like a representative, and then going from that to a senator, you know what I mean, and building that type of a party around her and her ideas, and having other people as well be involved in that. She just wants to run for president, and I think that is obviously not how you build a movement. If we look at the Libertarian Party, there are some libertarians that have been elected to local office, hence why that party itself is bigger than the Green Party. But again, you get people who just run for president, and we saw it in 2016 with that guy whose name I'm forgetting.
Gary Johnson.
He didn't even know what Aleppo was. And it's the capital of Syria. And he just asked him that, and he just didn't know what it was. And I'm like, this is why
I remember that.
This is why nobody takes you seriously, because you're not building from the ground up. You're just trying to run for the highest office for what? To get your name out there, so that you can like leverage that for like a nice deal on Wall Street or something. I don't
want
know.
Tax cuts. They don't believe in paying taxes, so
right.
They'd rather have privatized everything. But yeah, go ahead.
Speaking of taxes and budgets and consolidation of power within coalitions for stuff like that, as Senate, this is from the New York Times, as budget chairman, Bernie Sanders will play a central role in shepherding Biden's agenda through Congress. And this is something that you wanted to talk about, so I'll let you take the reins here. I'll pull a Mitch and step back and let you take control.
Oh, the one time you pull a Mitch?
Yeah.
The one time. No, I'm just kidding.
Portal face.
Yeah, so I just thought that this was, I wanted to leave off on a positive note, especially going into next week.
Yep.
So yeah, Bernie Sanders is going to be the next Senate Budget Committee chairman, and it's going to be pretty vital, in shaping the central role of the Democrats, especially how they want to spend, and like the format of like taxation. Even though like it's going to be a very slight margin, and Kamala Harris will have to be, she'll have to break the tie, but I still think it's vital to, get important things passed, such as like the minimum wage being $15 an hour. Of course, in my opinion, that doesn't go far enough, but that's a starting point. And so I just wanted to share this article. It's by the New York Times.
You want me to stop the share and let you do it?
Yeah, sure.
Or
I can try to share my screen.
There you go.
What is it sharing?
Not now. Go ahead and hit share, and you should be able to do it, right?
Oh yeah. Nope. Host has disabled it.
Cool. Put it in the chat, and I'll open it.
Okay. So anyway, I'll just continue reading. So Lawmakers are adopting a budget resolution originating in the House and Senate budget committees, which can include directions to congressional committees on how much to increase federal spending or taxes. The nature of the process effectively gives Mr. Sanders a leading role in deciding how expansive and expensive Mr. Biden's ambitions for new taxes and spending will be. Mr. Sanders said in the interview that he wanted to make an initial emergency stimulus package, quote, to be big. He thinks it must include an additional $1,400 in direct payments for adults and children on top of the $600 that Congress just passed, along with money for states and cities to fund coronavirus vaccine distribution, testing, and contact tracing. He also wants to create an emergency universal health care program so that anyone can get medical treatment during the pandemic, whether they currently have insurance or not. And yeah, you know, I really would like to see like state funding for like the frontline workers get more money. You know, I mean, there's been like a record-setting precedent of how many cases have been, you know, happening daily, which is kind of ironic considering, you know, we have a rollout for vaccinations, but it just seems like the whole rollout's been botched because you need multiple doses, and there's been a lot of troubling, you know,
Yeah, it's because
like
the Trump administration was just holding out on a lot of the distribution of the vaccine.
doesn't Trump have?
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Doesn't Trump have? Because I know he was withholding Pfizer, right? Because he has investment and ties to the
I
other
don't
company,
know about that, but I wouldn't doubt
pharmaceutical
it.
company. Yeah, that's what I heard. I'd have to, you know, see if how accurate that is. But it wouldn't surprise me because he's broken the emoluments clause multiple times.
Right.
But go ahead.
What I'm saying is that he stopped sending out the vaccine because he wants those who are partially immunized to be fully immunized. He wants those who already received the first one to get the second one before other people even get the first one. And I don't know why.
I'm not sure I agree with that at all because we need as many people vaccinated, right, as we can.
Yeah, I don't. Again, I'm not, you know, a vaccine doctor, epidemiologist, or whatever the word is, but I think that a partial immunization is better than no immunization, as far as I'm concerned. Maybe. I mean, you know, maybe
I don't know the ramifications though yet of it, but like I still think I agree with you. It's better than a rollout of this, you know, just botching it this badly.
Maybe he did it out of spite for the Biden administration to handle and put more time into, you know. Maybe he's like, oh, now that they're busy with this, they won't be able to pass other things that they want. That could have been his plan.
It's just an inept and botched response. Like no matter how you slice and dice it, like even if he does, you know, is trying to like leverage money and like profit incentive, you know, against Pfizer, even if that is accurate or if it's not, I mean, it's like one last send off. It's like one giant fuck you before he gets out of office.
I think we're giving Trump too much credit. He's not like an evil genius with an evil master plan.
Yeah.
You know, I think he just fucked up. That's what I think. I think he just fucked up. And
he has no accountability. So when you're surrounded by yes men and cronies in your administration, you can't really be too surprised.
That's true. I think he just fucked up. I don't think there's really anything behind the scenes. It's like, oh, I own this or I own investments in this. I'm not gonna say he's an idiot because obviously he's extremely intelligent and he could fool, you know, a bunch of people into basically following him to try to start a coup. Gotta be pretty smart to try to convince a bunch of people to start a coup. I mean,
he uses double speak a lot.
Yeah.
You know, you notice that? Like he really does. Like he literally evaded accountability at the same time while advocating, you know, with the inclination of a violent takeover and riot. So,
right.
You know.
And again, that's actually pretty smart by him.
Yeah. It is for a cop out. Absolutely.
That's it. But what's going to happen if if it goes to a trial, if this whole incitement, forming a coup insurrection, whatever goes to a trial, his words will probably save his ass because he never outrightly said, go and kidnap members of Congress. Go and get Mike Pence go and do all these things. You got to take back your country. You can't be weak. You got to fight for it. That's all he said. Do it peacefully, but you got to go do it. That's what he's saying. And I think that's what will probably save him. I watched a YouTube video on it from the Legal Eagle, which is a lawyer on the YouTubes that goes into this type of political stuff and give you how it would work and various implementations and precedent in the Supreme Court. And so I think that Trump could possibly, if it does go to trial, which I highly doubt it because we don't punish our politicians in America. If
accountability is not known here, but yeah, go ahead.
No, sorry. I think he'll probably get off because his words. He never outrightly said go burn down the Capitol. He just said we got to be strong, but you got to take it back. You can't be weak. We're going to march down there. But he never outrightly said anything, and I think that's what we'll say.
That was a keen and pretty astute thing for him to he planned that ahead.
Oh, he knows. Well, yeah, he knows. He has Rudy Giuliani, who probably told him, "Hey, don't say something outrightly violent and indicate yourself. I mean, don't say, hey, go get Mike Pence and kill Mike Pence. Don't say that because then it'll be pretty obvious." It's like when people on the Twitter or the parlors or whatever things are out there now. When you say something that you're going to go do, it's imminent and present danger. If it's pretty obvious you're going to go do this, you're going to get in trouble for saying you're going to go do this. I mean, and he knows that. He's not an idiot. So,
yeah, I mean, and that was a blatant fucking riot. That wasn't even a protest. So,
that was a coup. We'll just say what it was.
It was a coup, and I see people debating it, and it's like, well, because you have military connections to actually overtake it. Well, the malicious attempt was there. The intent and the attempt, it was all there. That is literally the manifestation of a coup. So yeah. I just want to disclose that.
Yeah, I mean, I've never seen the Confederate flag put in the Capitol before, but apparently that's still a thing. And
the coup apologists, you need to dial it back.
It's just Trump sympathizers. This is something that really irked my brain like a week ago or something, like last week sometime. I was thinking about it, and I was just like, I think we might be one of the only, if not the only, country that celebrates our Civil War with Civil War reenactments. What the fuck is up with that? Why do we do that? What is the? I don't see the French.
Because the Confederates want to relive their fucking fantasy if they fucking want it. Maybe that's why.
It's just a bunch of grown men who want to LARP and not be
exactly
LARPing. That's all it is. Just call it.
Speaking of that, though, I see a lot of that same sentiment, that same energy that you're fucking describing, to criticize England. You know what I mean? When we first established and colonized, and they committed genocide when they colonized here, but you know what I mean? They use the same framework to reenact the Civil War as that too. And it's Britain's not like that anymore. It's not the same monarchy and king, with taxation and theft, you know what I mean? Originally, it's different. I see that same energy though, what you're saying from the group of people that celebrate that too. I don't know. It's just interesting. I don't know. Side note.
That whole idea irritates me.
It irritates me too. Hey, they have free healthcare at least. I mean, yeah, their foreign policy is abhorrent, but at least they have nationalized healthcare.
Yeah, I mean, they take all their tax money and actually do something for the citizens. I mean, that's fair. I don't know. The whole thing about Civil War enactments just irritates the shit out of me. I just thought about it the other day. I'm just like,
yeah. What irritates the shit out of me is the celebratory bullshit of the Confederacy and fucking neo-Nazis. Why are you condoning and advocating for that? And stop calling it Southern heritage. That fucking just irks me. It's the precedent it sets.
We're an enemy nation.
You try to secede from the nation. That's treason. You're celebrating treason.
Then they celebrate that, and it's just
it's nothing to celebrate, you fucking treasonous asshole.
It irritates me, and it's just we have to have our statues, and it's then you can take your statue and you can take that and own a private plot of land and put that on a private plot of land, I don't think that the taxpayer should have to pay for something like that for the upkeep of that.
I mean, Germany took down fucking Hitler statues. Is it really that radical to do? And that's all symbolic. Like, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Like economically and politically, socially, like, what does it actually do? It's a symbolic gesture. You know what I mean? It doesn't actually
mad. And so they don't get mad because they're snowflakes and they need a safe space, and their only safe space is the Confederate flag.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's just like, that happened like 200 years ago, dude. You weren't even alive. Your father wasn't alive, and your grandfather was. Just go away. I'm sorry, you lost. You weren't even there. You don't even care. Yeah.
Yeah. But like I said, I see that same energy with like the propaganda of when we first established independence here from England. It's like, it's just, those are the same people who are also in denial about the genocide that was committed here when we colonized here. They promote.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. Like, they promote like how we had our independence here from England, but then they whitewash the history and neglect, the whole genocide we committed to the Native Americans, or not we, but the government with it.
It's
colonizers.
The thing that sucks is the American government has broken every single treaty we've ever made with the Native American people. Every single treaty, and that just bugs the shit out of me. We sit here and we try to say how
reconcile.
Much we care about them. Oh yeah, we're really and we don't do anything. I mean, looking at the Keystone Pipeline is a great example. And it's just
and the Dakota 38. If you actually look up what that was, I think a lot of people, when they study Abraham Lincoln, it's funny. I actually don't see anyone mention that. Like, I'm not saying the Emancipation Proclamation wasn't, an important piece of legislation, but like, if you look up the Dakota 38 in the context, basically of starving Native Americans to where, and then 38 Dakota men that were hanged, without a trial. So, you can actually learn a lot about the treaties like that we violated multiple times. You know what I mean? In the words that were used. It's just, something to keep in mind, but I think we're digressing a little bit, but just some interesting history.
History and her story.
You can edit some of that out, but
it all stays in. You wish I would edit it out. No, it was good. I mean, you. And I think
so.
Well,
before we end, I just want to say, Biden would have. He does have the choice to expand, since this is a medical emergency, Medicare for all.
Yep.
And there is a Washington state proposal so far being talked about it's like a form of, it's not Medicare for all, but it is single payer healthcare, and it would be immensely better than the privatized health, care. Yeah, I know, right? Profit incentive motives and mafia middlemen being eradicated. What? I know. Premiums, deductibles. What?
Yeah, but wouldn't that make our healthcare garbage? Like England's? Oh wait, or German, Norway, Mexico. Okay,
Canada. Norway. Japan.
South Korea.
Singapore.
Taiwan. Okay. Every other place, basically.
Every other developed country, and But so if Biden wanted to, he could expand it. I mean, I doubt he will, but that's one thing to consider. Is there's a lot of executive power, and it'd be nice to see like student loan debt forgiveness more than $10,000. I'm seeing a lot of griping from people that either haven't gone to college and have been in insurmountable debt, or the people that have been in a job. It's just a lack of egalitarian measures and empathy. Like, it's really disconcerting. But I do hope that like in the first 100 days, I'd like to see some form of student debt forgiveness, you know?
Yeah, because the idea of accruing so much debt, at least in my view, I will say, can be a form of deterrent from getting a higher education. You know,
Mhm.
I was looking at it today or yesterday or some shit, and I was like, oh yeah, maybe I'll go to law school after I get my bachelor's. And I'm thinking about it, it's another 3 years of school, which I could do, but it's also a lot more expensive than my bachelor's. It's graduate school, it's a lot more expensive. And so is it going to be worth it? I'm going to have to accrue, probably 20, 30 plus grand in debt.
Right.
Is that going to be worth it to me or not? And I think, you know, some people could see it as a deterrent from getting an education.
It detracts, yeah, absolutely. Because I'm gonna be. I have at least 30 more credits after this term, and I'll have my bachelor's at that point. But it's going to like law school or medical school. I mean, it's a massive amount of debt you have to accrue. It's
Yeah. And so then you're thinking, it's basically what it comes down to is either do you want to work like a normal job or whatever and then get a 30-year mortgage, or do you want to get an education and have 30 years of paying that back? That's kind of your choices now. You can't have both, but you can have one or the other.
And I just want to say back on the issue of healthcare, like your healthcare, and this kind of correlates to that, it shouldn't be tied to your employer. That gives more leverage, to the employer than it does the worker. For if you support labor, you really shouldn't have to depend on your health insurance, because think about it. If a disgruntled worker, whether it's worker compensation, how they're treated, if they want to go somewhere else, apply for a different position, they don't have that opportunity because they feel that what are they going to do after they lose their health care, So, and Trump moving the poverty lines is also part of that too, for Medicaid versus Medicare and Obamacare and the mandates. So, we'll see what happens, but yeah, I just want to leave it off. At least someone on a positive note. At least Bernie is the Senate
Yeah, I'll
budget
give them that. And at least
chairman committee.
I think that's part of that coalition building. And I think that's part of what Sanders, that was part of it during the primary. Hey, you got to concede and let Biden in. Can you go to the campaign trail for Biden and do all this stuff?
Yeah.
Sure. Will you give me this? Sure. And that's part of that. And I'm glad that
He wanted labor secretary just to dispute this, or just to,
I know.
just to say. So I'm not going to go on a limb and say Biden's returned the favor for the left.
No,
because he's trying to negotiate with fucking Republicans, but that it is a stepping stone. It's a step in the right direction. So
yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised that if we'd see more progressives in the future getting higher positions of power.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, I think we could leave it off on that. Right on. Well, thanks for listening, and have a good week and have a good inauguration day, everybody.